presentation. Feel free to ask questions at any time. I like to have conversations and not just talk to you. So, just putting that out there if you feel comfortable. So I will get started. I'm going to be looking at this screen because I have two screens. So just letting you know. But my name is Kara. I'd like to welcome the first class of this financial health and wellness program, which is titled Ke Ala Viola, means the path of wealthy life. So again, this is a financial literacy curriculum. It's 4 parts, which we'll be going over in the next few weeks. That was created for the UH system. It's going to be implemented at all 10 campuses. So you folks get to see you're some of the first participants. So that's very cool. Today's lesson will be the first of 4, and we will learn about creating goals, budgeting, and banking. These are some of like the introductory type topics, but I hope it's still very helpful to all of you. Just a quick note that I will say at the start of every presentation, but the information in this presentation is for educational purposes only and should not be treated as legal, investment, accounting, or tax advice, just like blanket disclosure that I gotta say. A little bit about me. I graduated from UH Manoa back in 2017. I may not look like it, but I'm actually going to be 30 years old this year. But I got my Bachelor of Business Administration and Marketing and Management, and I also got my MBA in 2021. I am a financial consultant, as Wendy said, at a local investment advisory firm. During my free time, I teach karate with my dad, and I like to go golfing. So if you want to talk about that stuff as well, feel free. I'm a second-degree black belt. And then I also have a passion for personal finance, which of course is why I'm here talking to you all today. If you haven't already received the workbook, here is a QR code so that you can access it online, but I think everyone should have access to it, yeah. So I'm just going to go past this slide. Okay, these are the topics that we're going to be covering today. You can follow along in your workbook from page 3, because there are a few like activities that we might do if we have some time. Okay. Again, if you have any questions throughout the presentation, please feel free to just like stop me and like interrupt me. I love being interrupted and just ask questions. You don't have to like wait. So, but I'll provide time throughout the presentation for questions as well. All right, this is the first like interactive part, but so I don't really like lectures, so I'm gonna try to make this as interactive and conversational as possible. So let's start with a couple of questions. First, if you ever got like $1,000, say you got $1,000 as a gift, just out of the blue, what would you do with it? Anybody? Feel free. You can type it in the chat or you can just say it
I
out
would
loud.
go out to dinner.
Go out to dinner. That's a lot of dinners or one
Well, just
very
I would go
expensive
out to
dinner.
dinner because I received this large chunk of money, and then
Mhm.
the rest I would strategically use.
Ah, I see. How would you strategically use it?
I would probably pay some upcoming bills. I don't really have debt, so
Oh,
it would
good.
be something upcoming and decide where I want to invest the rest of it, or if there's something that I was looking to purchase. But most of it would probably go towards investing some way.
Excellent. Love to hear that. Anyone else? Anybody? The reason I like to ask this question is because we don't often think about what we would do if we just randomly came into a large sum of money. So I like to just use this as like a not an icebreaker, but you just get the juices flowing in your mind and start thinking about money on a larger scale. Yeah. Anyone else? There are no right or wrong answers. So don't feel, oh, I see some chats. Wait, let me read the chats. Okay, save it, save half, put it in my savings, invest 90%, pay my debt, pay debt, learn how to invest it in stocks. Yes, all of these are excellent, excellent answers. Great. So again, and I think I have another one. How could you use it to better your financial future? All of these questions, all of these answers kind of talked about this already. But again, there's no right or wrong answer. The bottom line is it depends on your situation. And everyone's life circumstances is different. So it's really about identifying what that looks like for yourself and what your values are and what I guess what your values and your goals are and how you can use this to get there. Okay, so that's how we're starting. And that kind of goes into the dreams versus goals part. So the first step on anybody's personal finance journey, and really any like goal you're working towards in life, is to envision what kind of life you wish to have. So this is a very broad scale, right? You probably want to get your degree. I think you folks are all in school. Maybe buy a car, maybe get a job with a good salary, maybe you want to start a family or buy a house, or maybe you just want to travel the world. But regardless of what that dream life looks like, you actually have to sit down and define it for yourself. That's the very first step. Because otherwise, you're just going through life aimlessly, right? That's the reason why people make vision boards. That's the reason why people write like New Year's resolutions. There's all these things where you have to carve out time to be intentional, and that allows you to progress in life, right? So I want you folks to start thinking about this kind of stuff. What is the difference between a dream versus a goal? This is actually an important distinction. So dreams are aspirational. They're an end result that you're striving towards, whereas a goal is more clear and tangible. It provides you with a roadmap to reach your dream. And it has things like deadlines and action items. So has everyone heard of SMART goals? SMART goals? Yeah. What does it stand for? Let me just perpetually leave my chat open so I can read that. If anyone. SMART goals, what does it stand for? Anybody? Measurement. What does the S stand for? Specific. Very good. A, achievable. Yep. What does R stand for? If you don't know, it's okay. I'm going to show you. Yes, realistic. Very good. And then T, time-based. Very good, everybody. So again, SMART goals stands for specific, measurable, attainable, or achievable. It's kind of same thing. Relevant or realistic, and time-based. Okay, so um, we like to use these. We want to make all of our goals into SMART goals essentially because that makes it a lot more structured and it makes it the chances of achieving them a lot better because you have steps, right? You have a deadline. You know what it looks like. You know how to measure it, etc. Right? So I would encourage you to make your goals into SMART goals, and that's what differentiates from just a dream that you have. So let's do a quick exercise. So in your workbooks, write down maybe you don't have to write three, but write at least one short-term goal that you can achieve in under 1 year, and then write at least one long-term goal that you can achieve in over 1 year. And I'll give you about a minute to do that. And you can like type it out if you want. Stopwatch. Okay. You have about 30 seconds. I should add some like elevator music or something. Alrighty, let's start finishing up. Let me just delete that. Okay, let's start finishing up. And the next page on your workbook, there's another goal. We don't have to do this right now, but I would encourage you to do this at some other time. Like just carve out like 10 minutes to go through this exercise. But I'm just going to tell you how to do it. So once you figure out some goals that you want to achieve, you want to turn it into a goal statement. So has everyone heard of a mission statement? especially my business people, right? Every company has a mission statement. That's like the first thing that they teach you in business school is you want to have a mission statement because that tells you what you're working towards. That tells you your why for why your company exists, right? So a goal statement is kind of the same thing. It's something that you can read. It's short and sweet, but it reminds you of where you're going and how you're going to get there. So the prompts to make a goal statement are, what is your goal? Who is involved in your goal? When will you achieve your goal? How much will your goal cost? And how will you achieve your goal? So you kind of answer these prompts, and then after that, you combine it all so it becomes like one or two sentences. And then whenever you need like motivation or you just want to remember this is what I'm working towards, you can read your goal statement and be like, okay, this is my why. This is my North Star. So this is just something nice that you can do. Okay. All right. Oh, also, when you do things like this, especially making them into SMART goals, it makes you 90% more likely to achieve them. And again, it's because you're creating that structure, right? It's not just this ambiguous thing in the ether. It's something defined. All right, can we now share? It doesn't have to be like the entire goal statement, but at least like one of your either short or long-term goals. And the reason it's good to share your goals with others is because it makes you more accountable, right? If you tell your friends that you're going to lose 10 pounds or something like that, then you're a lot more likely to do it because you put it out there in the universe, right? So I encourage you to share your goals here. Yes, it's a SpongeBob gift. Anybody? I can go first. My current short-term goal is to buy a house. I'm actually in escrow now, and it's super exciting and scary. It's kind of funny because Wendy, last year when I did my thing, I had set that as my goal. So now it's like finally happening. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, I do remember you saying that. That's why I'm clapping. I'm like, good for you. That's
Thank
awesome.
you. It's a lot of work, man. You guys, when you buy your first house, it's like a full-time job, but it's exciting and awesome. Yes, buying a house is a big goal for us all. Anyone else? You can type it in the chat or you can say it out loud. Lose weight, that's good. And it doesn't have to be money related. Any short or long-term goal that you have.
Can I speak?
Wait, what did you say?
Can I share my short-term goal?
Oh, sure.
Okay. Um, this is what I came up with. At the end of every month, I want to save up $50 to reach at least $600. By the end of the year, I will need to write down each money to keep track of it.
Excellent. I like how you made it measurable and you have a goal, a deadline. So that's awesome. Very good. Okay, let's see some of the chat. Pay off credit card debt, that's huge. We'll talk about that in tomorrow's class. Take a family trip to Maui and Lanai, great. Saving for traveling, buying a house, traveling to different countries, make food from home instead of eating out 6 days a week. I feel that. That's a great goal to have. Okay, awesome job, everybody. So again, just sitting down, defining your goals is the very first step towards achieving whatever financial freedom or whatever you want to do in life. Excellent. Next section is going to be on tracking your expenses. So raise your hand or raise your virtual hand if you've ever tried to do this before. Maybe you like look at your receipts at the end of the month or maybe use a budgeting app or something. Excellent. Very, very good. Um, that is another first step that you can do towards financial freedom. So we're going to talk about expense logs first, which is a tool that you can use to keep track of your expenses. So essentially, they help you to track your cash inflows. That's anything that comes in, anything that you earn, and cash outflows. That's anything that you spend. And it provides you with an accurate picture of your regular spending habits. So you can use there's a lot of different options. You can use an app, you could use a spreadsheet, you can even just use a piece of paper or like just look at your receipts. Really, whatever works best for you, whatever you're actually going to use. There is an expense log example in your workbook if you want to like see what it looks like or what information goes into it. But generally, you track your expenses monthly so that you can see how your spending patterns change from month to month, right? Um, and you can use your receipts or your bank statements to find those expenses because you're not going to remember every single thing that you've purchased, right? I can barely remember the things I bought yesterday. So it's good to use this to just keep track of everything. And the reason we look at things month to month is because our spending patterns will change throughout the year because of seasonality, right? We generally spend a lot more in the holidays. We generally spend a lot more during the summer because everyone's off and they're traveling or hanging out with their friends more because everyone's off. You might spend more during back to school season when you're buying supplies or, God forbid, rental books or like textbooks for classes, just completely expensive, but something that we need, right? So it's good to see those patterns ahead of time so that we can plan for them in the future. And it's not just this big surprise, like, oh my God, how did I spend $1,000 on Christmas gifts? You know, at least we can plan for it in advance. Okay, in your expense log, you're going to notate the date, the item that you spent on, a category such as groceries or rent or whatever, how much you spent, so the amount, and then the method that you used. There's a bunch of methods, and in this picture here, there's some examples. Maybe you pay with cash. Not a lot of people do that. Well, I guess sometimes. But more often is like your debit card, your credit card. I don't know if people use checks anymore. A check or like Venmo or whatever. So you just want to notate the method. Um, yeah. And then at the end of the month, you're going to take a look at the total for each category. And then you're going to review what you spent on and ask yourself if you're surprised by the amount you spent either overall or in a particular category. Notice how every step that we're talking about is about being intentional, right? The reason why people find it hard to reach their goals is because they're just going through life and life is just happening to them, right? But by being intentional, setting your goals, figuring out a plan to get there, tracking your expenses, that is how you get to your goal faster. Okay? Being intentional, that is our giant uh theme for this. All right. I highly recommend using a budgeting app. So these are a few here that I've tried. Um, these are all popular. Each one has their pros and cons. So let me just go through them briefly. So for every dollar, and if anyone knows who Dave Ramsey is, this is his app. There's a free version, which you have to put in all of the transactions manually, which can be tedious, but it also forces you to look at all of your spending, right? Because it's like, oh, I spent $50 at, I don't know, wherever. Walmart or whatever. So it forces you to look at that. I think for the paid version, you can link your different accounts, your credit cards, your bank accounts, etc. So it'll just automatically populate in the app. Let's see. Empower and YNAB allow you to link your credit cards and bank accounts. Well, I guess they all do. And that just makes it a lot easier to track your expenses. So if that's your cup of tea, then I would recommend doing that. Empower is free, which is really nice, but it's not really made to be a budgeting app. The budgeting aspect is very like high level, low level. It's like super basic, basically. You can just categorize your stuff, but it just shows you like the totals. So it doesn't really have a planning aspect. But if that's all you need, then that is a nice option and it's free. But it's made more to be an app for tracking your net worth. So like you add all of your bank accounts, you add all of your investment accounts, you add all of like your credit cards and mortgage and whatever debt that you have, and it'll track your total net worth, which is a whole other thing, which we won't talk about today. But if you want to use that app, you can do that. Last one is YNAB. YNAB stands for You Need a Budget. And YNAB is probably the best budgeting app of these three. It's probably the most successful. The people who use it are extremely like loyal to it. They're very much like, yes, everyone needs to use this app. I personally use YNAB and I love it a lot. You do have to pay for it though. I think the subscription is $15 per month or $99 per year. But the average YNAB user saves over $600 in the first 2 months and over $6,000 after 1 year, according to their website. So that's a lot of money, and that pays for the subscription. Students can also use it for free for the first year. So if you want to try it, I would highly suggest trying out YNAB. Okay, we'll talk about it a little bit more, how it's used. Any questions so far? The first couple of topics. No questions? And if you have any questions throughout the presentation, again, just unmute and say something or type it in the chat and I will find it. Okay, let's move on. Now, once you start tracking your expenses and you get used to seeing the things that you're spending on, the next thing is to determine which of them are needs and which of them are wants. Okay. First, what kinds of things do you folks buy often? For me, one of my splurges is boba. I love
Coffee.
coffee. Coffee is a very common one. What else? Anybody?
Yes.
Gas. Yes, that is an important one. Jamba Juice. Another one that, well, I don't spend on it often, but sometimes I'll spend. I really, really like playing Pokemon Go. I try really hard not to spend money in game, but sometimes it's just I have to because there's like an event or something. So that's another thing. Books, awesome. Eating out, great. Very good. Awesome. Okay. Now I want you folks to start thinking about if those things are needs versus wants. So let's go over the difference. It's usually, I mean, it's pretty straightforward, but there's some gray area. So needs are essential for sustaining everyday life, and these include things like housing, clothing, and food expenses. Okay. On the other hand, wants are extra things that make for a more desirable quality of life, like luxury goods, leisure travel, and entertainment. But there's some gray areas, right? For housing, for instance, you could rent like a studio apartment because that's all you really need. Or you can rent a 4-bedroom single family home. And the expense for that is completely different. So what do you really need? Do you need all that space or do you want that space? Okay, so there's a gray area there. Same for clothing. You could buy, I don't know, $100 pair of Lululemon leggings. Or you can go to Target and get the same pair for like $20, you know? So there's all of these gray areas where you have to decide, is this really something that I need or is it a want? And I want you to get in the habit of recognizing what that is for yourself. Everybody's different because everyone has different values, but you have to start recognizing what that is. Okay. There is an exercise in your workbook. Shall we do this now? Let me see what's next. Let me look at time. Yeah, why don't we do this? Actually, never mind. Let's skip this one because there's another exercise that I'd rather do. But if you want to do this exercise in your free time, then I would encourage you to start recognizing what in your life are needs. For instance, boba for me, that's definitely not a need. I don't need more sugar in my life. It's a want. So I'm trying to limit how much I buy it to like once a week at the most. Better to be like maybe once a month. It's like a treat. But recognize that for yourself, and then you can use that to start limiting it. Okay. If you notice that you're spending too much on your wants, then we can use the 3 R's of money management to help curb your spending. Let's go over what those are. So the 3 R's are refuse, reduce, and replace. Okay, not to be confused with the 5 R's of whatever, recycling or whatever. This is different, okay? Now, refuse is to simply stop buying an item. Okay, just cold turkey, you're not going to buy it anymore. Reduce is to buy the item less frequently or buy them in smaller quantities. And replace is to substitute that item with a lower cost alternative. Let's go through everyone's favorite example of coffee. This is the thing that everyone talks about, okay? But there's a reason, okay? And we're going to go through some numbers so you can see. So here's an example of refusing. Say you buy a $10 cup of coffee. I don't drink coffee. These numbers used to be $5 per cup, but I was told that's too low. So now it's $10. $10 cup of coffee 5 times a week. Your weekly cost will be $50. Your monthly cost will be $200, and your annual cost will be $2,400. That's a lot of money. That's like half your tuition almost for one semester. If you completely cut out coffee from your life, you will save the full $2,400. Okay, that is number one. Not everyone can do this. Okay, some people need their coffee. So you can try reducing the amount of times you get coffee to just 3 times a week. Okay, so your annual cost will drop to $1,440 and you will save $960 per year, which is still a very good amount of money. All right. But what if you just need your cup of coffee in the morning? You just cannot function without it. Instead, you can try replacing your daily purchases by making your coffee at home. So say this costs you just $2 a day. It might cost a lot less depending on how you do it and how much you get. Your annual cost will drop to $480 and you will save $1920 per year. So this one is kind of a win-win situation because you still get your daily coffee, but you're saving almost $2,000 a year. Okay, so these are just a few strategies that you can use if you think that you're spending too much on your wants or even your needs, then you can figure out how to reduce your spending a bit. Is it expensive for one cup? Maybe for like, I don't know, a grande with all the bells and whistles. Costco coffee, yes, get the giant thing of the ground coffee. My husband actually does this. So he's like a coffee guy. Like he like worked for a coffee shop and he does like the AeroPress and the what is it called? The Chemex and like the pour over whatever. Um, and he's like all about that. But during the week, he will drink Costco coffee, like instant coffee because it's cheap, right? And then on the weekends, then he'll make like a nice cup of coffee the right way. So just something to think about. All right, this is the exercise I wanted to do. So in your workbook, I think it's called Where Can You Save? You've seen the examples that I showed you of the 3 R's. I'd like you to now try applying the 3 R's to your own spending habits, or at least one of them. So think of something that you buy often, probably something that's a want, but it could be a need. And then think about how to use one of the 3 R's to save some money. Okay, so you can go ahead and fill it out. Um, you have to think about how much it costs, what the cost is per month. There's a little bit of math here, but I think we can all do it. Uh, then pick one of the 3R strategies, and then what is the new reduced cost, and then you figure out how much you save per month and per year. So I will set like maybe 2-minute timer for this. 2 minutes. All right. About 1 more minute. Okay, let's start wrapping up. Does anyone need more time? Oopsie. Does anyone need more time? Because now, of course, I want us to, wait, whoops. No, I want us to share. And it doesn't have to be everybody, but if you would like to share something that you buy often and then which of the three R's you used, um, then please share. So for me, it was boba and reducing, reducing my boba intake. Okay, $100 PSN card. What is that? PSN card? PlayStation? What is that? Oh, okay, PlayStation. Every few months, will not get into details about what the money is used for. A little bit more surprised if anyone could possibly guess it. Okay, which of the three R's do you use? Or would you use? Reduce. So instead of every few months, or is that, would you do it like less than every few months? Oh, okay, so you've already done it. Very good. Do you know how much money you're saving? Probably a lot. Anybody else? Vegetables, fruits, $20 every 2 weeks, $40 a month. Good. Refuse by growing your own. I love that. I love that. Awesome. $480 is a lot. Oh yeah, that's awesome, Jaren. $300 to $600 saved. Karate lessons. Woo! What is your which three R are you using? Reduce. Another thing that I want to talk about is like we have to figure out the things that we really value in life because some things it's okay to spend a little bit more on if that's like your thing, right? For instance, like karate is my thing and I love doing it. I train like, I don't know, 5 times a week. And I'm willing to spend a little bit more money on it because it's something that I really enjoy. And maybe I'll spend less on like other things. Like maybe I'll spend less on clothes or maybe I'll spend less on eating out. But I'm okay spending a little bit more on karate because that's like my thing, right? So it's okay to spend a little more, like even on the whatever your thing is, as long as you're being intentional about it and you're not just spending everything on it, right? You still want to be intentional. Wow, awesome. Very, very good. Stop smoking saved $100 a month, $1,200 a year. That's a lot of money and much healthier. Very good. Buying random electrolyte drinks at the store to drink before yoga costs $96 a month. Recently replaced with electrolyte packets to put in your water from Amazon. $45 per month instead. That is awesome. Awesome, awesome. Okay. Well, everyone is kind of seeing the benefits of doing this, right? When you sit down and you actually quantify what you could be saving when you do these strategies, it really motivates us to actually do it, right? It's like, man, I could be saving $1,000 a year by doing XYZ. Why not? Right? So I'm really glad that everyone did this exercise. Are there any questions before we go on? No questions? Okay, great. So now we have talked about what our goals are. We've talked about ways to save money. The next step is to create a spending plan to help us reach that goal. Okay, so this is another step above the expense log. Does anyone currently use a budget? Anybody? And it's okay if you don't. Okay, what comes to mind when you hear about a spending plan or a budget?
Designating a specific amount of money towards each expense category.
Very good. Yep. A set amount of money to spend. Yep. Again, being intentional, right? Cutting costs. Yes. Very good, everybody. Sometimes budgeting has like a negative connotation to it because people think it's very restrictive. I want us to kind of step away from that mindset and more think about that's why people like to call it a spending plan instead, because it's more about planning, Again, it's more about being intentional and finding ways to reach our goals that are within our means. Okay, so think about it more like that. What is a spending plan? It is simply a document that helps guide our money where we want it to go so that we can reach a particular goal. And it's also called a budget. It contains two major categories, which is income and expenses. Again, that's what you make and what you spend. And it also has a budgeted amount for each category. That's how much you plan to spend in that category. And then the actual amount that you spent. And then really, again, I will keep saying this, it's about being intentional with your spending, right? At the end of the month, you're going to subtract all of your expenses from all of your income. And the biggest question, the most important question that you want to ask yourself is, did I spend more than I earned? Did I spend more than I brought in, or vice versa? If you have a surplus, and that means you made more money than you spent, that is great. That's what you want to do. You want to consider putting that money into a savings account or an investment account or something like that. On the other hand, if you spent more than you earned, that is okay. The first thing is to identify that that happened. And then you just go back to the 3 R's and you figure out how you can save money. So notice how every step in this presentation is just giving you another tool to reach your goals, right? It's never about shaming yourself for spending too much. It's never about being like, oh, I have so much credit card debt. Well, what am I doing? It's about identifying where you're at, identifying where you want to go, and figuring out how to get there. Okay? All right, let's see. There are several budgeting methods to choose from, but the best one is the one that you're actually going to use. So you might have to do some trial and error to figure out what you like. The first budgeting method is the 50-30-20 method. So in this method, you split your budget into big buckets. 50% goes to needs, which we talked about earlier. 30% goes to wants, and then 20% goes to things like savings. So that's like an emergency fund. It might be retirement accounts. Some people might also put debt payoff into this category, so it kind of depends on you. All right. And actually, this is the method that I use. And you don't have to like stick with the 50-30-20 breakdown. You can either change the categories or you can change the amounts. But the main part is to like have a breakdown. So for me, I try to save 50% of my earnings, although that is probably going to change now that I have a house because a mortgage is super expensive, people. So we're probably going to follow this one a lot more now. Okay, the next method is the zero-based method. In this method, you give every single dollar a purpose, down to the penny. This is for the very detail-oriented people that just want to keep track of every single thing, every single dollar in your life, which is awesome, but that might not be everyone's cup of tea. But if it is for you, then by all means, go ahead and do that. The next method is the envelope method. So in this method, you might have heard about this before. You either get physical or digital envelopes and you assign a category to each one. Then when you get your paycheck or whenever you get income, you split the money into each envelope depending on how much you want to spend in each category. And then when you go to spend in that category, you just take that envelope, you take the money from that envelope, and that's all you get to use, right? So if you have your grocery envelope, you just take that, you go to the store, and if you only have $50, then that's all you get to use, right? This is actually the method that YNAB uses, and they use it in a digital way, but that's one of the reasons I think why they are so successful. This is a really good method to use, but not everyone just uses cash these days. So it's kind of hard to do the physical method. And that's why YNAB is really cool because it does it a digital way. Okay. The last method is for those of you who feel too constricted by having a super detailed budget. So in this one, all you have to do is spend less than you earned. Okay, that's all you got to do. Just total everything at the end of the month. If you brought in more than you spent, then you did great. Okay, because that means you're getting closer to your goal. So for that one, maybe you can use Empower, the Empower Personal Dashboard app, because that's basically what that one does. It just gives you the totals. So that one might be good. Okay, so just try them out, figure out what you like. Now, let's see. Yeah, we have time. Let's do this one. Let's do a creating a spending plan exercise, which is in your workbook. And I'm going to give you a scenario. And if you haven't made a budget before, just want to get you in the practice of like thinking about what the different types of expenses are and then like allocating money to those expenses. Okay. Just very arbitrary, but pretend that you got $1,000 for the month from like your part-time job or something. Look at the expenses that are on that worksheet and then just like put them into the categories so that it totals up to $1,000. Okay, why don't you take a minute to do that? And there might be more categories than just what's in the worksheet. So if you want to add more categories, you can. We take about 10 more seconds. Again, this is a super arbitrary exercise. There's no right or wrong answer. Okie dokie. So, you don't have to like share this one unless you want to, if you want to like share it with your friends. But again, this is just to get you in the habit of thinking, okay, I have this much money and I need to spend it on all these categories. How am I going to divide it up? Okay, just want to start thinking about it like that. Any questions so far? We have one more section and it's on banking. Okay. And that's what to do with your excess money or where to store your money. Now, raise your hand if you have a bank account. Yeah, great. Okay, the other people. Oh yeah, there's a little raising hand thing. Great. Awesome. I think most of us do. And if not, that's okay. I'm going to tell you how to get one and how to choose a bank. Now, why is it good to use a bank? Why not just leave my money under my mattress or in a piggy bank or something? The reason is because your money is actually much safer in a bank because it is insured by the federal government. Um, you folks probably learned about the Great Depression in school, right? The Great Depression happened because basically like everyone something happened with the banks and the banks didn't have money and everyone was like, oh my God, the bank doesn't have my money. I want to take all my money out. And then the banks didn't have enough money. And so the Great Depression happened because of that. So after that, the federal government was like, okay, we need to make sure this doesn't happen again. So we're going to insure banks up to $250,000 per account so that if the bank doesn't have enough money to give you your money back, the government will give you your money instead as insurance. Okay, so that's why it's good to keep your money in a bank because it is insured there up to $250,000, which is great. It also earns interest, which is essentially free money. And who doesn't like free money? And it's convenient. You can access your money whenever you need it from things like your debit card or ATMs or checks or Venmo or whatever. Okay, very convenient. However, not all banks are created equal, okay? When selecting your bank, the first step is to decide whether you want to use a credit union or a traditional bank. Now let's talk about the differences. Credit unions are nonprofits and they are owned by their members. The members are the people that use the credit union. Membership may be limited to specific groups like the military or a university. So all of us, because we are part of the University of Hawaii, are able to use the University of Hawaii Federal Credit Union, okay? Because we're members of the university. For instance, or actually I talked about that already, because credit unions are not seeking profit, they usually offer better rates. So they'll offer lower interest rates on loan products, or they'll offer higher interest rates on like savings accounts. And that's because they're trying to do the best for their members. So generally that's what happens. And up to $250,000 of your money is insured by the NCUA. Okay. Now, banks, on the other hand, are for profit and they're owned by shareholders. Their main goal is to make a profit, make as much money as possible. They're open to the general public, so anybody on the street can go to a bank and open an account. But because they are profit seeking, their rates may not be as good. So that's why it's good to shop around, whether you're looking for a savings account or whether you're looking for like a mortgage or a car loan, you want to make sure you're shopping around at multiple places because the rates are very different. Okay. However, because they are profit seeking, that means they usually put more money back into innovation. So they'll usually have better websites, better apps, they'll have more locations, things like that. So you have to kind of weigh what you value more, and figure that out for yourself. And then up to $250,000 of your money is insured by the FDIC. Okay, so these are both different government like agencies, I guess. And it's just that one is for banks and one is for credit unions. But all of your money is insured. Okay, for those of you who either don't have a bank now or you think maybe I should shop around for something better, then you can use this or these 3 C's of banking to figure out what's best for you. So they are cost, consideration, and convenience. You want to ask yourself, what are the rates, the fees, minimum balances, per check charges, which is not really a thing anymore, but you want to just check what are all the fees and stuff that each institution offers. Okay, you want to compare those apples to apples. What services are offered and what is your comfort level regarding personal attention and financial advice? Maybe one bank treats you like a king or queen, while the other one maybe not so much, right? And then how accessible is the institution to you? Is it close to your school? Is it close to your work? You know, are you going 30 minutes out of your way just to deposit money? You want to check all of those things. Something else to consider is ATM fees. So most banks and credit unions have something called in-network ATMs. So there's only certain ones that you can use for free. Anything that is out of network, you have to pay a fee to use it. Okay. However, many credit unions also reimburse out of network ATM fees, which is a nice perk. And I think that many online banks also give you credits for that because they don't have physical locations. So that's another thing that you can look at. But banks normally don't do that. Okay. You can also use the table in your workbook to help you to compare like different banks and credit unions to figure out which one is best for you. And then you can compare apples to apples. All right, next, let's talk about checking and savings accounts. Both of them are offered at both banks and credit unions, but they have differences. So generally, it's good to have both of these accounts. Checking accounts are designed for everyday transactions. So it's like, I like to think of it like a train station, like money is constantly coming in and going out, but it's not just sitting there, right? Usually it's just moving. So it's more of a transactional place. They pay little to no interest for the money that you put in. So like usually it's like 0.01% interest. That's like almost nothing. And so basically, you don't want to keep too much money in a checking account because you're losing money to inflation. Does everyone know what inflation is? Can anyone tell me in like a 1 sentence summary what inflation is? It's okay. Let me tell you. Everyone knows how a bottle of Coke back in the day used to cost 5 cents, right? Now a bottle of Coke is like what? I don't know, $3, something like that. That is because of inflation. Okay. The buying power of our money, how much we can buy with $1 is decreasing every year. And that's what inflation is. Because of that, prices will increase, you know. And it's this whole economical thing, but that's generally what it means. So and also inflation is usually 2 to 3% per year, which means all of your money is losing 2 to 3% of value every year, just because the bank, the Federal Reserve is printing money and adding more money, a whole economical thing. But if you are not making at least 2 to 3% in interest every year for all of your money, that means you're actually losing money. to inflation. Does that make sense, everybody? It's a very, very important concept. So that's like number one reason why you don't want to leave all of your money in a checking account. Because your checking account is only increasing by 0.01% every year, almost 0%, right? While at the same time, it's losing 2 to 3% of its value. So you want to be making at least, you want to be at least keeping up with inflation with all of your money. Okay. All right. And that brings us to savings accounts, which are designed for storing money more long term. They pay higher interest rates, especially if you get a high yield online savings account, which we'll talk about a bit more. And the difference between like a normal savings account at a bank versus an online savings account can be very different in terms of the interest rate. So at a normal savings account, like at your local bank, it'll usually pay below 1% interest per year, which again is still losing money to inflation. It's still below that 2% inflation rate. But online high yield savings accounts pay right now between 3 and 5% per year. And this will fluctuate with market conditions, but it'll pretty much always be higher than inflation because that's what it's designed to do. And the reason why online high yield savings accounts pay a higher interest rate is because they don't have to pay for a physical location, which is very expensive, right? So they can pass on those savings to you. So that's just something to consider. Sometimes savings accounts may have limits on the number of withdrawals that you can take out in a given period. So it might be like you get one free withdrawal from your high yield savings account per quarter. So any other withdrawals that you make during that time frame, you'll have to pay like, I don't know, a $10 fee or something, or a $5 fee. So just something to keep in mind. But the trade-off, the interest rate that you're getting is so much better. So you just got to think about that. Okay, how do you save money? Say you want to save up for a car or a vacation. Here's how you would do it. So first, you're going to open up a designated savings account for that thing. And it's nice to have a separate thing for big goals like that, just so that you can have, I don't know, a container for it and you can like see. It's just good for measuring and stuff. And you can look at your local bank or credit union, but even better, look at those high yield savings accounts. Some good companies are Ally, CIT Bank, which is different from Citibank, very important. Discover and Capital One, but there's a bunch out there. So you can just Google best high yield savings accounts, and there will be articles like NerdWallet or I don't know, Bankrate and stuff. They'll have like a list of a bunch of really good ones. It'll show the rates that they offer. It'll show like minimum balances, etc. So you can look up those things also. You're going to want to try to deposit a portion of every paycheck into your savings account. And you could also set up automatic transfers, but I wouldn't do that if your income is variable, because say you don't make too much in 1 month and you have this automatic transfer, you might overdraft your account and that costs fees. Okay, so you want to just be strategic about that. But you want to just try to put some of your surplus money into the account, and you only want to use that account for the goal that you set for it. Okay, so don't be like saving all this money and then you're like, oh, look at, I have like $1,000. Let's go buy, I don't know, whatever, an Apple Watch or whatever. Okay, use it for the thing that you intended. Okay, another savings tip you should consider is creating an emergency fund. I think a lot of you have probably heard of this before, but this is money for unexpected life events or expenses that just pop up suddenly without you planning for it, such as getting a flat tire and then you have to replace your tire, or maybe you get into an accident and you have to pay for medical bills. Things happen. The bottom line is these things will happen at some point in your life, and you're not going to know when. So it's good to have the money set aside for when they do happen so that you're not stressing to come up with the money. You know, you already have it set aside. Ideally, you should have 3 to 6 months of living expenses saved up in an emergency fund. And the reason why you have this amount is because what if you lose your job and you can't find a new job right away? At least you have enough money to cover your expenses for a few months while you're looking for a new job. And it's not like a completely stressful thing that happens, right? So that's the good rule of thumb to follow. Um, yeah, and you can create a separate savings account for your emergency fund. There is a table in your workbook to help you decide which checking or savings account is right for you, because just like the bank one, there's different things that we have to look at. You want to compare apples to apples, so that allows you to do that. All right, this is the last slide. This is the last thing that I want to leave you with. It's just a word of caution. Humans can fall victim to something called the hedonic treadmill. Has anyone heard of this before? Hedonic treadmill, or lifestyle creep is another word for it. Picture this as you make and save more money. Say you start out with like a $50,000 job, and then 10 years later, you're making $100,000, right? You'll probably want to increase your quality of life by buying fancier cars, buying a bigger house, more expensive clothes, etc. You know, going out to eat more, all this kind of stuff. However, this new happiness by buying all those extra things doesn't last forever. Okay, so basically, like, your happiness level will increase slightly for the short term, but then it will like level out again. So this becomes your new normal, and you're just gonna want more and more for the rest of your life, right? It never ends. So instead of falling victim to buying the newer, bigger, better thing, instead, I would encourage you to go back to the first thing we talked about in this presentation. What does your dream life look like, right? What are your values? What are the goals that are most important to you? And just focus on those things, because generally those are the things that bring us happiness. Usually it's things like family and friends, right? Or traveling, or I don't know, the things that are more intangible generally are the things that bring us the most happiness. So focus on those types of things. Another good gauge is to spend your money on the things that help you become the person that you want to be. Okay, so maybe you're the person that prioritizes family. Maybe one day you want to be like a stay-at-home mom and you want to just devote all of your time to your kids. That's what I want to do. That's like one of my core values. So my goals are to get me to financial freedom so that I can just stop working and take care of my kids, you know? Or maybe you want to just travel for the rest of your life. So you figure out how you can sustain that lifestyle instead of maybe buying a house which will tie you to one place and be super expensive. So think about what you value, right? I think that's all I have to say on that. If you want to learn more about personal finance, I highly recommend this podcast. This is probably where I learned like 90% of the things that I know about personal finance. And these guys are just two best friends. They just talk about different money things, and it's super easy to digest. There's not a lot of jargon. I encourage you to listen to this. Okay. This is the end of the first class. Thank you for bearing with me. We have 1 minute, but I'm going to stay on a little extra for questions if you have anything. You can test your knowledge. There is a quiz on this class if you would like. It's only 6 questions, but if you want to do that, you can. There's also an optional evaluation, but it's up to you. You don't have to do it. It's up to you.